What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Blazers Uprise Live here on a Monday. We're going to be recapping the Blazers winning a ring. A Summer League ring. It's not a real ring. It actually is a real ring. Eric, they gave out real rings to these guys. Yeah, so I thought it was, kind of a little bit much when they announced it, but since we're the ones who got the rings, I'm cool with it now. I'm cool with it. Trent Watford gets MVP of the championship game. I don't know if that's something they used to do or not, but he gets some hardware. Andy gets second team all tournament. And we're just going to recap Summer League a little bit. I know you did your solo stream. If anybody doesn't know, I've been dealing with COVID, so that's been fun. I finally get that experience. It's the first time I've actually known that I've had it. So just been kind of bored out of my mind, quarantining and whatnot, but hopefully everybody else is had a good weekend and had a good Monday. I'm gonna drop a video recapping Summer League 2, so I'll still get into everything, and that video might be touching upon a lot of the same things I do during this stream, but yeah, we're just going to recap it a little bit more, and then for about a month we'll have to try and figure out things to talk about. Eric?
Yeah, we can talk about a comment in chat.
What's the comment in chat?
Who cares? Dame resigning means nothing if he can't get free agents to come to Portland.
Oh, you already want me right back to the trolls, man? I don't got the energy for trolls. But anyway, yeah. What's going on, chat? I don't even know where to go with this, man. I streamed last Thursday, but it feels like it's been a while, man. Time's been moving very slowly for me. Very, very slowly. But
what'd you think about the game? What'd you think about how the players played and all that?
I mean, Watford was good. It was nice to see him hit some threes. He needs to learn how to speed up his shot a little bit. That's kind of my one takeaway from him, because when he has time, his shot looks solid, but when he has to speed it up, it's kind of rough. So at the NBA level, yeah, definitely has to speed that up. Keon didn't repeat his 25-point performance, but, Jabari Walker, consistently solid. Did you see the wins above replacement thing?
Yeah, I saw he had, by far the least amount of minutes of anyone on that list. Almost half of what Keegan Murray had.
Yeah, I forget who it was, but there was some sort of advanced metric, wins above replacement player, and on a per-minute basis, Jabari Walker was, the best player in Summer League, so he was phenomenal. Was phenomenal once again yesterday, so I know you recapped it, but I'll kind of give my thoughts on it. This will probably be a little bit of a shorter stream, and then we'll be live again next Thursday. We're now to the point where we're going to be streaming Mondays, Thursdays, 9:30 p.m. Pacific time, just like we were earlier this off-season, and that'll go for the rest of the off-season. Might take a week off at some point, but we'll see. I don't know about that yet. Anyway, Eric, what do you want to start off with, man, for this stream?
Well, I got asked a lot of good questions yesterday. I'd like to hear your thoughts on a couple of them, including some donation that actually specifically asked for your answer when you got back. And the first question is, do you think any of what you saw, they were, I think, by far the best defense of Summer League, and the Knicks averaged over 100 points against every team except for us. They only scored 77 both games against us. Do you think any of that's translatable to the regular season, or does it give you any hope that this coaching staff can, actually coach a good defense? Or what are your thoughts on seeing that?
I think you had better defenders on the floor compared to what you'll see with the starting lineup at the NBA level. Obviously lower competition level, but you got Keon out there, you got Trenton out there, who I think has turned into a good defender. Jabari out there as well. Brandon Williams, I think, is the problem is at the NBA level, he's just vastly undersized, and it's the only players his size are going to be insanely skilled, Kyrie Irving type guys, Chris Paul's, guys like that. But in the Summer League, it's a lot easier for him to be competitive defensively, going up against guards a lot like himself. So Kyle Alexander isn't a guy that we'll talk about much, but he's athletic and big, and I think a big part of it was just simply you had good defensive players out there on the floor. Greg Brown said that he had made it a point of emphasis going into Summer League to try and become a better defender. So I think, he, at the Summer League level, played good defense. So I don't know how much I can put it on the coaching staff. I mean, they looked well prepared. They looked like they were playing on a string. They played with a lot of energy. They played with a chip on their shoulder. But I think you just had a lot of good defensive players on the Summer League roster.
Yeah, but we've talked about how a player like Josh Hart coming in or a player like Gary Payton, now you have both of them, how that could rub off on some of the other players and make them want to step up their defensive effort as well. So I think that's encouraging to see both that, like, just with a little bit of effort, it can be good. I don't think it was necessarily because, obviously Keon's a really good defender, but other than him, it's not like we had lockdown defenders at every position or something. That was the reason why we played good defense. So I also thought it was encouraging to see, with not a whole lot of practice time, the rotations and the scheme looking locked in pretty much every game. And I think in my mind, that's encouraging that the coaching staff got them to play so in sync and on a line, like you said, in a short amount of time. And I think that bodes well when you think about a lot of these players other than Sharp and Jabari Walker, who won't really factor in too much. But most of the rest of the team got in here last year and, knows the system or has played in the NBA before. And so I think we might be able to hit the ground running a little quicker with Chauncey's system than we did last year, hopefully.
Yes, but Summer League with guys that, like, how many of these guys are going to be in the rotation? Maybe Trendon, maybe Jabari, probably one of the two at this point. Maybe neither of them. With guys that aren't going to be in the rotation next year, I can't take away really anything from Summer League in terms of being optimistic going into next year.
But I'm saying I was impressed with some of the schemes and rotations and stuff, and it's not necessarily personnel. It's just...
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing is I don't think scheming was an issue last year with Chauncey. It's just in order to play aggressively on pick and rolls, you have to have guys that fly around behind that, and you have to have guys that fill in gaps quickly, and we just didn't have that last year, so it looked awful. When you have guys that fly around and fill in gaps quickly and get to where they need to go, trapping some pick and rolls, hedging, maybe random double teams at times if the ball's on the sideline, that sort of stuff will look a lot better when you have guys behind that know what they're doing. And in the Summer League setting, it seemed like you had guys behind that knew what they were doing. Like Trendon Watford showed that he was a smart defensive player last year. He was part of that. Just this team was on a string, which is, I've said that quite a bit in the past year or so. But, if you trap a pick and roll, somebody has to pick up the roll man because you're committing both pick and roll defenders to the ball. Somebody has to pick up the roll man. Somebody has to, be ready to rotate out to that guy who might be in the corner. You have gaps to fill behind that. But you also have to, if you play aggressively on the perimeter, you have to truly play aggressively. You have to truly get into the ball, truly be a disruptive force so that, if you send two guys at the ball on a pick and roll and trap it, if those guys aren't putting pressure on the ball and the guy with the ball can just take a dribble back and pass it wherever he wants to pass it, you're going to have a tough time. That's why you need guys that are engaged and are willing to get into the ball handler when they trap and that sort of thing. There's a lot of nuances that go into it. The problem is last year, I don't think the schemes were a problem. I think you just didn't have guys that did the nuances well. And you had Rocco that was out of position way too much. You had Norman Powell, who just played lazily defensively last year. Nasir Little was really good on the ball, but I've said this plenty of times. He was a mess off the ball defensively last year. A lot of it's fixable. But all those issues combined to the Blazers just getting picked apart when they tried to play aggressively defensively. That's why they were still bad. It wasn't anything to do with the scheming. The Summer League team played aggressively, but did a lot of the little things right, and that's why it looked really good. So it's more of a product of you just had guys that executed better, even though it's Summer League, these players executed better than NBA players did at the start of last season. Now, we had moments where, You remember the start of the year at home where we started 10-1 and the defense at times looked phenomenal? That's because they were doing the little things. So I think it's just more so execution compared to maybe some of the schemes.
Well, that's where I'll disagree with your point, because on the road during that stretch, we absolutely resorted back.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's why I said at home. That's why I said at home.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, to your overall point that it wasn't necessarily the scheme. I felt like that was Chauncey's biggest misstep in his first year, was allowing the players to kind of dictate and let him know they were uncomfortable in their situation and not being okay with them being uncomfortable until they figured it out. So I'm hoping that part is different this year, because there was a point last season where we started, I remember a game against Phoenix on the road where we were switching every pick and roll against Chris Paul, and he was just abusing us in the second half, and it was frustrating. So, like, I hope we don't do stuff like that this year. But
absolutely, we
ran all kinds of defense. Like, we threw that zone that Chauncey likes to play out part of the time this summer league, and I was just really excited to see some of the different defenses they threw out there. They trapped sometimes, but yeah, certainly having better personnel will help as well.
Yeah, I mean, but that's my point, is I don't think anything we saw in Summer League is something that we didn't see last year from Chauncey. It was just the players players executed well. And and when the players executed well at the start of last season at home, because they didn't execute on the road. They were terrible on the road. That's why they started 1-10 on the road. They executed at home to start the year, and it looked good. Mm-hmm. So I'm just hoping that they can now take that on the road with this main roster and do the same things on the road as they did defensively the first 10 games last year at home.
Yeah.
Because they started 10-1. They blew out a healthy Phoenix team. They blew out a pretty healthy Memphis team. Like, they blew out good teams at home because they played defense, and then, of course, offensively, you had a lot of offensive talent. And that was with Dame not being himself. Mm. So that's the optimism for next year, is you brought in some guys, and yes, you still lack some size, but you brought in guys who get after it, brought in guys who will do the little things, who will fly around, who will fill gaps, play passing lanes, that sort of thing, and that's where the optimism comes in.
Right. Yeah, there was a play yesterday where, I hate to keep bringing him up, obviously I like him a lot, but having a player who does this is, like, amazing to see on the court. So we had a play where the Knicks threw it to the roll man, like you said. Jabari Walker came from the corner to help. Stopped. I forgot who the big was at the time, but stopped him from driving and getting to the rim. He had to kick it back out. And then he went and set a screen for Quentin Grimes, which the Blazers switched. And since Jabari Walker was guarding the big in that situation, he had to switch onto Grimes. Grimes tries to drive on him. He stops him from driving, has to pass out, and then the person he passes to throws it to a blown coverage, wide open guy underneath the hoop, and Jabari is quick enough to react from staying on Quentin Grimes to get back to contest the shot at the rim, and the guy misses a lay-in. Might have been partially blocked, but just having players like that who are instinctually good and never give up on a play. Don't try to, like, go hunt for steals or blocks or whatever. They just do the right things out there. If we have players like that this year, that's going to make the scheme look that much better.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing to watch for guys on the Summer League roster is, can they play defense the same way against a higher level of competition? Like, if Jabari Walker is getting switched out onto Zach LaVine, can he cut him off compared to Quentin Grimes, right? And Quentin Grimes was like the Zach LaVine of the Summer League. Like, he was a star of the Summer League, but, it's Quentin Grimes. Team, right? Yeah, it's Quentin Grimes. He was a late first-round pick last year, So it's like, can he make the same sort of plays if he's going up against the best shooting guards in the world compared to the best shooting guards of Summer League? I mean, I'm not going to count him out, but that's where it's like, I'm not, going to take a whole lot from Summer League and in terms of optimism for next year, because, like, with Trendon, I thought he played really well defensively, but he played a lot of center last year. So this year, he might play more power forward, which I think is his more natural position, especially if he can knock down threes, which he shot the ball okay in Summer League. But I'm still I don't know. I don't know if he can consistently guard quicker forwards yet on the ball on the perimeter. I think he can at times. I think he'll have some good moments and some bad moments. I just don't know how consistently he can do it. Well, whereas in Summer League, like, he's going to consistently play good defense against whoever you see he's playing against.
But honestly, like, there aren't a lot of players that in a isolation situation can stay in front of a lot of the good penetrators in the NBA. So I look for, if you get beat, like, what do you do after that? Like, or do you rotate to the right man, or do you stick with the guy, or like what is your, after you get beat or after you miss a rotation or whatever, how do you recover from that? And a lot of the players, Watford, Keon included, they just did a really good job this summer league of not giving up on plays and plays that would have turned into disasters in the previous years for the regular season. Like you said, it's summer league, so you don't know how much you can buy into it fully. But I was just pleased to see that a lot of those complaints we've had for several years with just making mistake after mistake that should be taken care of if you hold the team accountable, were getting cleaned up and looked a lot better in this summer league.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really expect many of these players to play, so it's still waiting to see for me. But I do like that we have guys that can fly around. That's one of the optimistic things, and that's like the last video I put out. I know I said I was going to do more videos, but, it started feeling sick, and that hasn't really happened. But I still got stuff planned throughout the end of July. But the last video I dropped was why small ball could be different this year, and that was kind of one of the main things. And I had some people in the comment section saying, you're on pure copium or hopium or whatever the saying is, right? You just think that getting players who will play hard is all that it takes, and it's like, that's the biggest part of defense. You'll hear a lot of people say it. Defense is heart and hustle and effort, especially if you're undersized. So if you're undersized and you don't have that, you're going to get abused, and that was last season. So that's really where the most optimism comes. It's nice to see them play well in Summer League, but my optimism more lies in the fact that I think we have players that can fly around and play aggressively defensively and actually maybe fits Chauncey's schemes a little bit better, but then also will take on the challenge more and do a lot of the little things that are needed to execute that properly.
Yeah. I'm just not, I'm with you. I don't know how much any of these guys are going to be in the rotation. You'd think Trendon probably has the best chance out of all of them, at least initially, to earn minutes. But yeah, it's going to be up to the guys like Dame and Ant have to be willing to step their defensive efforts up to match some of those other guys. And if they do, I mean, I think there's a scenario where we could easily be at least in the top half of defensive rating, somewhere in that 10 to 15 range.
Yeah. Anyway, what next? What topic you want to discuss next?
Did you see after the game, Watford on Instagram Live or something with Dame and Ant?
With Dame, yeah.
Yeah.
Trust me, I've had way too much time to spend on my phone.
And Trendon also, I like his attitude, man. He says it's time to bring a real ring to Rip City now next. And he said he's going to do it soon, so hopefully.
Yeah, he seemed like he was a little tipsy or something. I don't know, or he was just high off, he was off winning, He
was feeling himself, yeah.
Yeah, he was. He absolutely was. Flexing with the round metal. I thought he was going to drop that when they gave it to him, and he started just like clutching the very side of it. I'm like, you're gonna drop that. Don't drop it, man. But, I mean, I don't know what to expect that next season, man. I'm going to go in without super high expectations. My expectations are going to be that the team plays hard. That's about it. And that hopefully Dame gets back to his old self. But I'm going into next season thinking that a play-in spot's very possible because it's a loaded Western Conference. I don't expect us to be lower than 10th or anything. Like, a lot of fans will troll Blazer fans on Twitter and say, oh, you'd be lucky to get a play-in spot. But Utah's going to be out. San Antonio's going to be out. OKC's going to be out. Houston's going to be out. What's the other team I'm missing at the bottom?
Sacramento, maybe.
Sacramento is probably going to be out, right? So that's your bottom five.
Which should be better than all those teams.
Yeah. So then you're just talking about, like, Are you better than Minnesota, who's a big question mark going into next season after getting Gobert? Are you better than Denver, who's going to be healthier next season, but who knows if Jamal Murray is 100% what he was before? Same thing with Michael Porter Jr. They also shuffled their team up a little bit, got KCP, got Bruce Brown. Are you better than... Who else is in that tier? Like maybe Dallas, who lost Jalen Brunson but added Christian Wood. I don't think they got better. There's teams there that the Blazers could certainly be better than and make a top 6 seed, but I wouldn't be shocked, if those teams are better than Portland. Portland can have a solid year and those teams could still be better. Same thing with New Orleans. Joel tosses out New Orleans as another possible team in that tier as well. There'll also be a little bit of a question mark. CJ leading that team for a full season. I'm interested to see what his numbers are. But those are all teams kind of in the same tier that I could see the 8th seed being a 48, 49 win team. And that wouldn't necessarily be a bad season for the Blazers. So, Loaded West, my expectations aren't super high going into next year, but after a year where they were really high going into this year, I'm looking forward to having a season where I'm not expecting the world out of the team going into the season. Maybe I'm a little bit down on them because I want to be a little bit down on them after last year, where it's like I can enjoy some success, but that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah. Blevins Infused says we have an all-star two-way lockdown defender, Jeremy Grant.
He has never been an all-star.
Nor has he been a lockdown defender. Hopefully he's a better defender than he was in Detroit, but yeah, lockdown's a little kind.
Yeah, all-star is just false. Why do so many people... Yeah, see, that's why I wasn't going to respond to that, Eric, because I figured he might be trolling and I didn't want to take it seriously, and he says I'm trolling.
I mean, why?
I think he's making fun of all the people that truly think he's an all-star when he's never made an all-star game.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, I like being the surprise team. Yeah, I like the underdog role better.
Yeah. Also, if you want us to know that you're trolling, just put a /S at the end of your post, which means sarcasm. Mm-hmm. So that's how you can make sure you don't trick Eric or me.
Especially if
or
it's
I.
Wait, no,
what's the grammar? Eric or I. I have to make sure to get that grammar correct.
Blevins Enthusiast asks a ton of questions in chat too, so it's not like I can differentiate a lot of times between the actual questions and the trolling.
Yeah. Anyway, next topic, Eric. You're leading the discussion.
Who's two-way?
Who's two-way?
Who's the other two-way?
Nobody on this summer league roster.
So. Yeah, I suggested last night. I think, if we're going to sign someone like Kyle Alexander, you might as well wait until you see how other rosters shake up. Maybe just give him a training camp invite or something, because I don't think anyone else is going to sign him right now. So I think there's still a handful of teams. I didn't have time to research it today. I told Tommy I would, but there's going to be several teams. You'd think maybe OKC would have tried to get rid of Kenrich Williams, but they signed him to an extension today. They still have all kinds of roster spot issues, and will have to let probably one of their young guys go at some point this summer. So, I'd probably wait to see like a team like Houston or someone dumps a guy that has less than 4 years of experience and is able to still be on a two-way. That doesn't get picked up off waivers. And if worst case scenario, you can still go back to a guy like Kyle Alexander and sign him if you need to.
Yeah. I don't know. There's probably some players out there that played really well that, I don't know, that I need to look at. I'm going through an article saying biggest summer league standouts.
CJ Ellaby.
CJ Ellaby? Hell no. Is Moses Wright on a two-way? So he played for the Mavericks. He's a guy I like that at Georgia Tech, and he averaged 15.5 points per game and almost 7 rebounds, shooting 52.5% from the floor, and that's a big man.
I think he was on a two-way last year. I don't know.
So, if he's not on a two-way, I'd take him over Kyle Alexander. That was a guy I liked coming out of the draft. Thought he shouldn't have went undrafted last year. I'm still scrolling here. Pretty much everybody in this article is on a contract though.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. I'd have to go through and look at like some of the statistics from Summer League to really answer that question properly. But nobody on the Summer League team I think is good enough for a two-way. Chat, if you have any targets, if you have anybody that you think we should give the second two-way to, let me know in chat.
Definitely needs to be either a bigger forward or a center, I think.
Yeah, I think it needs to be somebody that can play
not
center.
Not Luka Garza.
We only have two guys that I feel like can legitimately play center.
Mm-hmm.
In one of them, I don't want playing center. That's really bad.
I mean, it's not going to be a two-way guy either at this point, but you might as well take a shot at someone.
Yeah, I mean, I think you need a center on a two-way just for insurance purposes, just for depth purposes. Orlando Robinson is on a two-way, I think, because that would be a guy I would like. Why not Garza? Stop killing my dreams. Because Garza's just not NBA caliber. He's one of those great college players that's not an NBA caliber player. I think Drew Timme would be a better NBA player than Luka Garza. And I'm a Gonzaga fan, but you guys, if you paid attention, know that I'm not high on Drew Timme as an NBA player. But he's kind of in that same mold, great college player that doesn't translate to the league. I mean, Garza just defensively is a big-time negative. Offensively, what does he do well? He doesn't do anything well offensively at the NBA level. I know Timmy's going back to school, Aeromancer. I know. Trust me, I know. But at this point, I think if you can trade cash to get off Didi's contract, you do it in a heartbeat, and you sign a DeMarcus Cousins or even a LaMarcus Aldridge at this point, is what I would try and do. I don't think that happens, though.
Yeah, I think if they do that, they're just going to stay under the tax unless they're good and need to sign someone, or if they have an injury and they're forced to add a depth piece there.
Yeah. Anyway, what next?
What do you think about Nurk's decision to play for Bosnia-Herzegovina in the whatever the qualifying is?
Yeah, I mean, good for him. You know, like he's the star there. You know, like he's their KD or LeBron or whatever. You know, might
Luka
help
Garza's
him
playing.
Yeah. Might help him get in shape a little bit earlier.
That's
I know some fans are like, oh no, he's going to get hurt. But, I mean, it's what, September?
Yeah. Well, and he also sat out, you know, from just how, or it was, they decided to sit him at the All-Star break, I think. Yeah, so since the end of February through the end of the season, so last month and a half he didn't play. So, yeah, getting game shape, get some reps there might be good to just see a little bit different style of competition that he hasn't played against in a while because he hasn't been playing competitive basketball any summer, I think, since he got traded here. Yeah, I'm for it. I mean, obviously it would suck if he got hurt, but I don't have a problem with him playing in it.
Yeah. If he doesn't get hurt, it's going to be good for him just to get game reps, just to get into a little better shape. Because I saw a picture of him and he looked like he was a little chubby, man. Like not bad, but like compared to how he's come into training camp like last year, he's looking a little bit chubbier. So, you know, if he can get some game reps, get in game condition maybe, I don't know how long that thing goes, but that would only be a good thing for him.
Yeah, for people asking about Moses Brown, I believe he signed a training camp deal or something with the Clippers, so I think that's where he went. I'm not 100% sure on that, though.
Yeah. But right now, if Moses Wright would be my favorite for the two-way. So I saw why not Kyle Alexander. I just don't think like Moses Wright I think is better than Kyle Alexander. I haven't seen Moses Wright since college, but I really liked him in college because he can shoot, mobile, can play some defense. I think take the ball off the dribble a little bit. So What next?
Just trying to find any kind of details on Moses Wright.
Yeah.
He's still listed on the Mavericks page, but they don't put on like Spot Track. They don't put the contracts for the two-way guys. So,
8'11", standing reach.
Would you rather have LaMarcus or Cousins if you don't?
That's a good one. I'll put that in a chat poll too. Who would you rather have? LaMarcus or DeMarcus?
Man, that's tough. I don't think there's a wrong answer there. But I mean, I know LaMarcus didn't play a ton of minutes last year for the Nets and kind of accepted his role there. But I still find it hard to believe he would accept that role on this particular team coming back. I think
you would.
Yeah. But I've seen DeMarcus be okay being a backup the last couple of years. So, man, it's close. But I don't think there's a wrong answer.
I mean, LaMarcus is, what, 30... almost 37. He turns 37 tomorrow. July 19th.
Happy birthday, LaMarcus.
Yeah. And he came off the bench last year. I mean, he's still unsigned at this point. Like, I think the dude isn't completely crazy where he still thinks he's who he was when he was 28. And I think if you would just offer him the backup center role, and if he's willing to be okay with that, then, you know, he would come in and be willing to be that. If he still thinks of himself as a starter, then he's going to start in Europe next year. You know, like, he's not coming back to the NBA as a starter.
I think if he doesn't get picked up, he'll just retire with this heart problem.
Absolutely. But, like, he ain't starting anywhere, and I think he knows that. Like,
I'm not saying he would start necessarily. I just think he would be like the main scorer on the second unit or whatever. And
I mean, you could make a case for him being the it depends on who you play in the second unit. But last season, in 22 minutes per game, he averaged 13 points per game on a true shooting percentage of 60%.
Yeah, I'm aware.
Per 36, that's about 21 points per game. But I don't think it would be a situation where you just feed him in the post constantly. I think you just run a lot of pick and rolls with like him and Ant, assuming you stagger Ant and play him with the bench lineup. Like Gary Payton II and Nasir Little are both kind of somewhat questionable. Like they can do things offensively, but their shooting is a little bit questionable. I know Gary Payton shot the 3 ball decently last year, but he struggled before that. Nasir Little's always been very inconsistent from like a week-to-week or month-to-month basis. So you could use another scorer off the bench. I would take LaMarcus because he's a little bit more efficient right now, and I trust him a little bit more as a rim protector.
Yeah, I think in terms of injuries, like obviously LaMarcus, you have to worry about the health condition, the heart condition flaring back up. But it's not like Cousins has been healthy last 5 or 6 years either. So I don't think it's like a case where one is healthier than the other. Like they both have question marks there. But
I mean, if the heart thing pops up, then you just sign DeMarcus. Then like you can always pivot off LaMarcus if you sign him for a minimum. But it's pretty close. I would take LaMarcus just to have him potentially finish his career in Portland. I would take both of them over Blake Griffin, Chris Brandlin. Blake Griffin's production has really fallen off a cliff, and he's constantly hurt. So, yeah, at that point, I would go LaMarcus. That's a tough question. That's a good question. It's tough for chat, too. It was just at 50-50. Right now, it's 51% DeMarcus, 49% LaMarcus in the chat poll. So, you say you go with... Which one would you go with? I don't know if I heard a definitive.
I think I'd say Cousins, but I wouldn't have a problem either one.
Yeah. I mean, but that's the thing, though, is like the best backup center would have been an athletic rim running type of big, but you're not finding that for the minimum.
Right.
So it's like you're going to have to settle for either Drew Eubanks or LaMarcus Aldridge or DeMarcus Cousins. Like, those don't really fit what you necessarily needed in your backup center, but at this point, you kind of got to settle.
Yeah, Maurice Hayes. Unfortunately, right now, if we're just talking about signing someone off the street, there's not a lot of better options. Yeah.
All right.
But I think what they'll do is just they'll try to make it work with what they have, and
with freaking Eubanks.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, if Nurk goes down and he's going to be out a couple weeks or a month or something, they'll have to pick someone up. But I think right now they're just going to roll with what they have and hope that that's good enough, which I don't agree with, but I think that's because if they trade Didi and sign someone else, it's just they're still above the tax probably, and unless they sign someone that's like a rookie or whatever. So I don't know. Yeah.
Yep. All right. What topic next do you want to talk about?
Well, Blazer fans said I'd rather have Jalen Duren. Well, that's not really an option. We obviously didn't take him over Sharp, so that's not realistic.
Well, I think he's just saying he wanted him out of the draft. Who
have you thought about who you want starting at the 3?
Yes.
Hart?
It is not going to change from Josh Hart.
Yeah.
Unless here's the only way it changes from Josh Hart is if Shane Sharp is hurt or they don't think he's good enough right away to get minutes. In that case, then it could be Nasir Little with Josh Hart being the backup 3 or Gary Payton II being the backup 3. The other one being the backup guard and then like Jabari Walker being the backup 4.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're going to have one of the 2 rookies in the rotation to start the year. I just don't know which one. Assuming Shane Sharp plays, Shane Sharp can't play the 4. Josh Hart, you don't want playing the 4. Gary Payton II, you don't want playing the 4. You're not going to play Dame Morant at the 4. So if you start somebody like Nas at the 3, you then have 5 other guys that can only play point guard, shooting guard, or small forward, and 2 of them are your 2 best players who are going to play 35 minutes a game around there at the starting point guard and shooting guard spots. So all of a sudden, it's like you have 25, 26 minutes, whatever, at a backup guard spot. And then you have, I don't know, maybe 24 minutes at a backup small forward spot, assuming you play Nas 24 minutes a game. That's 50 minutes to split amongst Josh Hart, Gary Payton II, and Shaden Sharp. That's just not enough minutes for those guys. Even if you only play Shaden Sharp 10 minutes a game, 20 minutes per game is not enough for Gary Payton II or Josh Hart. It might be enough for Gary Payton II, but if you sign a guy to a full level exception where you can't even make a number of trades now because you're hard capped, might take away your trade deadline flexibility as well, just for a guy who you're going to play 20 minutes a game, maybe even a little bit less, doesn't really make much sense. And Josh Hart should not be playing 20 minutes a game. He should be playing 30. The only way to free up more minutes is to play, instead of playing Nas at the 3, to play him at the 4, which opens up more small forward minutes. So that's the problem with starting Nasir Little at the small forward spot.
But then
if you're planning on playing Shane Sharp,
then that's no minutes for Watford or Walker. So,
well, yeah, I mean that's the problem. Is somebody's going to get the short end of the stick. So that's what it comes down to. Is Shane Sharp like that good right away that he deserves minutes? Then you probably got to start Josh Hart at the 3 and play Nas at the backup 4. If he's not, then you could maybe start Nas at the 3 or Josh Hart at the 3. You're kind of fine. Because you're not having to give, shooting guard or small forward minutes to Shaden Sharp. Instead, you can play Nas down at the 3 instead of up at the 4, and you can play Jabari Walker at the backup 4 or whatever, or Trent Watford at the backup 4, whatever you want. So, it's crazy, but I think Shaden Sharp, even if he doesn't start, Shaden Sharp might determine the starting small forward spot. Or it's going to be a situation where they're trying to give too many guys too many minutes, and it's going to be a situation where like multiple guys aren't playing enough.
Yeah, I think they might try like a 12-man rotation to start the season or something, and just be really crazy, and just have everyone. I don't know if you ever got this in like playing when you were younger. It's like you had coaches that were like, "We have like a really deep team. Just go out there and and work your butt off, and we'll just sub every few minutes. And like
That was college.
yeah,
That was college for me, man. We had a super deep team.
yeah.
We played 12, 13 guys a game.
hmm Yeah, and it's hard to get in a rhythm and all that kind of stuff, but I think they might just do that and have it either be matchup based, who plays more, or it could even be performance based. But man, I really want to answer or get this question to Chauncey because I'd love to know how he's approaching the season in terms of developing a guy like Shaden Sharp. There's a lot of guys who probably need those minutes to be effective, Nas included, who they're all really high on. Like, how do you determine whether Sharp should get any minutes or not, whether Walker deserves minutes over guys who you've brought in specifically to play a certain role and who are your guys or whatever? like a Gary Payton, if he's outperformed in practice or training camp by a Shaden Sharp or a Jabari Walker or whatever, or Josh Hart, and like, would they have a problem, not playing him much? Or is it a case where he's going to get minutes no matter what? Like, it's tough to say, but I'd assume that the guys who leave it out on the court on defense, like Payton and Hart, would have the advantage starting off right away for minutes, and that the other guys would have to earn it. But I'm really worried about Sharp's development. Not that you want to just give him minutes if he hasn't earned them, but like sitting out another whole year and not getting many minutes this year, I think could really hurt him long term, in terms of how quickly he could be ready to be like a starting level player in the next couple of years, if that's what they project for him.
Yep. All right, what's next that you wanted to touch on?
Clearly a bot had a question earlier that I was gonna answer. Oh, he said, "What's up with Aaron Baines? He's trying to make his comeback." So yeah, good story that he's able to play basketball again. He was actually almost completely paralyzed from an injury in the Olympics, and it's taken him this long to get back to being able to. Like, some people thought he would never walk again. So thankfully he's okay. I just think he's the type of center for Portland, at least, that is the exact opposite of what we need in a center if we're going to sign someone else. I mean, he's not bad, but like, we just need someone who is a little different than Eubanks and Nurk and stuff, and not like completely similar to those guys. So, yeah, I'd rather have a guy who's a little quicker and a more defensive presence than that.
Yep.
But good to see him back.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that would kind of be in the same mold as like a Cousins or a LaMarcus Aldridge pickup. So, what's next? Your mic good? You started like, I thought you were muting it.
Nope. E. Gibson is not a fan of what Cronin's been doing, and says winning in the summer league won't translate. I mean, no one's really saying it well.
It won't translate to losses. It won't translate to wins. It won't translate to losses. And, just enjoy it for what it is. That's what I did, man. Just enjoy the summer league for what it is. And you can take some hope out of it with, like, obvious stuff. Like, Jabari Walker can obviously play basketball.
Yeah. And, I mean, no one's trying to say that because we won Summer League Championship, we're going to be NBA champions or anything like that. Like, I don't get why anyone would come in here and, like, act like it's a horrible thing that we won Summer League or whatever. Like, let people be happy about it. Who cares?
I mean, yeah, he didn't seem that negative. But anyway, what next?
So Rahi asked something you kind of touched upon earlier, but you think Trendon's more of a power forward than a center?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the coaching staff thinks he can play some center, but I think as of right now, they're trying to make him into more of a power forward. You saw every game, I think, There was a center that started next to. Well, actually, I think the first couple games, he might have started at center. I don't remember, but Luka Garza started several of the games, and Trender was power forward. I think that was clear indication that they're trying to see if he can play the power forward, and I think he did a good job at it. So I don't see any reason why he can't play power forward. And then, I mean, he's just too undersized, in my opinion, to play center. A lot of the time, you can get away with it in short spurts, but I wouldn't go into a season hoping that he's going to be the backup center.
Yeah. He's just 8'9" standing reach or something like that. It's only an inch and a half taller than Shaedon Sharp's.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, he's just undersized for the center spot. And he's not super athletic where he's going to be skying to block shots around the rim. So, as a rim protector, he can have the best instincts, but at some point you got to be able to get up. You got to be able to reach a high point to block shots. And I don't have confidence in Trent being able to consistently do that at the NBA level. Like, positionally, he could defend, but and instinctually, he's very solid defensively. But at the center spot, man, I just don't trust him protecting the rim. So at the power forward spot, as a secondary guy, you know, rotating over to block shots, I think he's fine. And then it just comes down to, can he defend and can he shoot and that sort of thing at that position. That's why I was looking at his three-point shot in Summer League, is because it would make it easier to play him at a power forward spot if he can knock down threes.
And, I mean, people are right. Draymond Green has similar body size, standing reach, all that kind of stuff. The problem is, I mean, Draymond's, probably close to the top 10, worst case, like top 20 defender of all time. Like, it's hard to compare a second-year undrafted guard or a forward trying to play like one of the all-time greats at defense. So, I mean, it'd be amazing if he was capable of that, and we're totally fine with him at small ball center. But I think that's just asking a lot of him to be like that, like count on him to do that right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Draymond Green's standing reach was an inch taller. I also bet you he could jump a little higher than Trendon Watford, man. No offense to Trendon, I love Trendon, and I really like his game. That dude doesn't have the most bounce.
I mean,
you know?
I mean, he is like a mini Draymond the way he plays, but it's just like, it's tough for young players because, I mean, Draymond's just the way he thinks and analyzes the game and studies it and stuff is like what sets him apart. And it's just tough for a young player to process all that quickly while also trying to do everything else on the court and stuff. Like with time, you could learn all that stuff, but it's just a big ask of someone in their second year.
Yep. All right. What else?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Eubanks has. I know Eubanks is listed at like 6'9". So I mean, I hate measurements. Like, don't just look at the measurements they list in Summer League. We saw Jabari Walker measure 2 months ago at the Combine. He was a little over 6'6" and 6'8" in shoes, and then they list him at 6'9" when he just measured 6'8", like a flat 6'8", and they list him at 6'9", 2 months later. So it's not, you can't go by measurements at Summer League. It's not a good indication of exactly how tall someone is.
Yeah, they said Sharp was 6'6", so.
Yeah. And he measured, like 6'4" and a half?
6'4" and a half.
Yeah. And Keon, they listed at 6'4", 6'5" most places, and he measured 6'2" and a half.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Grayhugh says Dame is 6'4", right? Oh, yeah.
You gotta go look at anthrometric, I think the word is.
Yeah.
Just search NBA.com, combine anthrometric, something like that. You'll find the official combine measurements that you could sort, and you can look back through previous years and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I do.
We haven't really talked about the Ayton situation. What were your thoughts on him signing an actual offer sheet with the Pacers and the Suns instantly matching and that whole situation?
I mean, that's what I said was gonna happen after Game 7 was. I told Gabe because I went on Gabe's stream after the Suns just had that Game 7 debacle, and he was like, "Ayton's gone. He has to be gone. I'm done with him. I'm done with him." Which is funny because now he's like totally on board with bringing Ayton back, man. Which is kind of, I can't blame him, but I told him, I said, I think you guys are just gonna run it back, and with the Ayton situation, they've been talking about Kevin Durant. The thing is, for Kevin Durant to get traded to Phoenix, so many dominoes had to fall perfectly for Phoenix, and a lot of them have. It still takes more dominoes. That's why I thought it was never likely, and I never would have put money on the Phoenix Suns trading for Kevin Durant. And now I absolutely don't think it's going to happen, no matter what Flex from Jersey says.
They're still in the running as long as he gets traded. The Nets, if they play hardball, they're not going to accept an offer and try to run it through the season like Philadelphia did with Ben Simmons last year. They have no chance. But I mean, if they get to a point where they have to just get him off the roster or something's happening there, they're still in the running, I guess. But yeah, it's tough.
I wouldn't expect it this offseason if it's going to happen. I mean, it's just not enough for Brooklyn to not sit there and play hardball. But as far as Ayton goes, I mean, that's what it says. It just takes one team coming along and signing him to an offer sheet to make it so that you can't get any trade value back for him to use in a Kevin Durant trade. And that's the thing for Indiana is they're at a point where it's like, I thought they had leverage, right? DeAndre Ayton on a max contract, I don't think any team wants him so desperately that they're willing to give up a ton of value to get DeAndre Ayton on a max contract. Honestly, I think that's overpaid, but for a guy on an offer sheet, normally you got to overpay to get him, so I don't think it was necessarily a bad move by Indiana to sign him to that max offer sheet, but I just thought it was a situation where they were going to put the Suns, in a hard place where it's like, okay, well, we either, have to try and extract a little value for him so we can try and push the Kevin Durant trade over the top. Maybe we can get a first back, maybe Miles Turner, whatever. Or we're just going to have to match. And Indiana signed him to the offer sheet and put Phoenix in a position where they just had to match and couldn't use him in the trade. So I don't know if we had that conversation on air, didn't we, recently?
We had a conversation about Ayton possibly going to Pacers, but he hadn't signed yet, though.
Yeah, and I just thought it wasn't a situation where Indiana was going to overpay in order to overpay Ayton. It just didn't make much sense to me, so I wasn't really surprised how that went down.
Phoenix almost got away with not giving him a max because if the Pacers didn't offer him a max, the only other team I think that could have was the Spurs, so that it would have either had to have been a sign and trade or he would have had to just eventually either accepted the qualifying offer or gone back to Phoenix on whatever offer they offered him, right? So
I feel like it would have just been the qualifying offer because that was, what, 16 mil?
Something like that. But if Ayton was expecting a max contract, do you think he would – I don't know if he would do the qualifying offer. I don't know. That would have been interesting to see what happened, right?
Yeah. I mean, more money in the market probably next year for a guy like him to potentially get his max, like – I think he might have taken the gamble, considering it was still maybe a $16 million qualifying offer, if I recall correctly.
And so just to give you guys a clear picture of what happened. All right. The Indiana Pacers did not necessarily want Ayton on a max contract like you just said, right? They didn't want to pay him that. However, they had the Miles Turner situation, who just happened to match, would have worked out contract-wise with there's this thing called base year compensation. So the Suns would have only been able to accept like 50% times 125% of his contract going out for them coming back in.
Yeah, and Ayton on a max, they could have brought him back like about $20 million.
Right. So, but they couldn't trade him straight up for, say, Donovan Mitchell or something making $30 million. So that wouldn't have worked out salary wise. So it was like this weird situation, but Miles Turner happened to fit perfectly into that. So did you know that Miles Turner and DeAndre Ayton have the same agent? So this was a play by his agent, knowing that this was the last possible place for Ayton to get paid a max contract for sure without having to worry about a sign and trade. So either way, they work out a sign and trade, and both of his clients are happy because Turner gets to go play on Phoenix, a top seed in the West, and everything's good. Indiana gets Ayton, a younger player that fits better with their whole retooling or whatever they're doing there. But they knew that Phoenix was going to match, right? So they signed him as a favor to Miles Turner's agent, who's also one of the biggest agents in the NBA. He's got like
it's Bill Duffy, right?
Yeah, he's got like hundreds
like Ant's a client of his. And Chet Holmgren is
right. This is exactly what we did with Ant, right? Like even if we overpay him, you take care of him because it might lead to pleasant negotiations with a free agent down the road or whatever because they took care of another one of their guys. So this isn't like Andy says, oh, conspiracy. No, this isn't a conspiracy. This is just smart how teams do it. So the Pacers now have given Miles Turner a favor. So now, like when negotiations come either for him to sign an extension or maybe it's trade talks or whether like maybe he wanted to be traded to a certain place or not. Like Jeremy Grant forced his way here. He's in a similar contract situation. But yeah, so anyways, the Pacers absolutely did it to please their agent for both of them, and it got both of them paid, and they can still trade Turner to whatever situation they get the best offer for. So yeah, I don't think they ever really wanted Ayton necessarily. I mean, they would have been fine if the Suns accepted that sign and trade, but they were trying to leverage them with that in accepting not just Miles Turner, but like you said, maybe also giving up a pick or something as well. And the Pacers also knew that the Suns were screwed if they let Ayton walk. So the minute they signed that contract, they knew the Suns had to sign him. Yeah. So just it was smart by them. I mean, they had to cut a few players and stretch a few players, so that might end up hurting them in the next couple of years, but they're not supposed to be like contenders anytime soon, so who cares really? So I think that was just a move, and like if it hurts the Suns from getting KD, that's great too, so I'm all for it.
So I mean, KD I think ends up back in I think he ends up back in Brooklyn. Does he play? I don't know, but I don't even know exactly why he's demanding a trade. I know it's like Kyrie's obviously a part of it, but it's still very confusing to me, man.
Yeah, because initially you heard that he was going to be mad if they didn't bring Kyrie back, if they traded him, and then he would demand a trade. And then you heard, or then he demands a trade after Kyrie accepts his player option to come back. So I don't know if it's just a case where he still thinks Kyrie could be traded, which is certainly a possibility. It's looking like they're trying to, but there's not a lot of takers for him other than the Lakers. And then, it could just be a case where he sees the writing on the wall that Kyrie's not going to re-sign next year, so he doesn't want to be stuck there for 3 more years without him either. So I just think that whole situation just blew up in a dumpster fire, and it all started last year with, the whole vaccination thing and all the city of New York requirements and mandates and stuff, and Kyrie not being willing to play there. And ever since then, it's just been a disaster of different things happening to lead to that whole thing falling apart when they were close to beating the Bucks without Kyrie and with Harden on one leg. So it's kind of a sad story, but screw them for trying to trade for all the best players anyway.
I mean, I can't blame them.
No, I know.
Yeah, but here's what I've said for a while is what I expect to happen. I expect KD and Kyrie to be playing for the Brooklyn Nets next year in a situation where if KD gives it another go, like Kyrie's on the last year of his contract, When things go well, maybe they elect to re-sign Kyrie, and maybe Kyrie wants to come back. It's just sort of like, okay, well, we can't find what we want for both of you, but we still have both of you under contract. I think it's a situation where KD and Kyrie will go back and play together next year, which I think is something that they, in the end, would be willing to do instead of like KD giving up a bunch of money. And I think it's a situation where Brooklyn would want to do it because the trade market for Kyrie and KD is not what it should. For Kyrie, it's understandable. For KD, the trade market isn't what it should be right now. So I think they bring him back, and then next offseason, if things, don't go well, they don't go on a run or whatever, then they will like promise KD to trade him if he wants out next offseason.
Do you think KD shows up then?
If Kyrie's back, I think there's definitely a chance. Because Kyrie's a part of this. So if Kyrie's back and KD, is KD going to give up $44 million next year? Instead of playing with Kyrie for a team that could be pretty good? I think they maybe got a little bit better this offseason. They got Ben Simmons now. I mean, Ben Simmons, that's a whole nother question mark. But I feel like KD would just be like, all right, I'll play one more year if you guys promise to trade me if I ask out next offseason.
Well, let me ask you this. You say the offers aren't what they should be, right?
For KD.
Yeah, but how are they going to get a better offer than what Utah got for Gobert? Because most teams can't even physically give them a better offer. You can trade
right now.
Well, I'm just saying at any point, even down the road. I mean, short of OKC offering 12 first-round picks, there's certain teams that have extra first-round picks, but most of those teams don't seem to be the ones in the running. So what offers? I mean, most teams can only offer the 4 first and 3 pick swaps, and then certain players, right? I guess New York could offer.
Yeah, but that would be a better offer than McHale and 4 firsts that are probably late firsts. Next offseason, it could be Portland if they make the playoffs with 4 firsts and Anthony Simons and Shaedon Sharpe. You know what I mean? I just feel like the trade market will be better a year from now. And it just takes a couple of teams. Right now, you just don't have those teams, and that's in the situation to give Brooklyn what they probably deserve for KD. You're talking about Toronto, who knows if they're even really going after KD. You're talking about Mikal Bridges and 4 first-round picks and Cam Johnson. I just don't think that's good enough. And even if you can't get anything better, why not run it back for one more year trying to win a championship with KD and Kyrie? You still have one of the top 4 players in the world. And Kyrie, when he shows up and plays, and he's in a contract year, so, maybe he's going to be dedicated to trying to get more money. When Kyrie shows up and plays, he's a top 30 player in the world. He's probably a top 5 point guard. He's still very talented as a basketball player. Just a headache with a bunch of other stuff. So even if you can't get something better, I mean, why not wait for a chance that you might get something better? And if not, then you run one more season trying to make some noise.
I just think it's tough to. I mean, I guess if you wait till next off season, then you have actual draft picks you can trade for too. What picks they are plus future picks. But I mean, short of that, I just don't understand how. I mean, most teams, that's the best offer any time of the year, whether it's a year from now or 2 years from now or at the trade deadline, is 4 first and 3 pick swaps. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's just depending on what players are coming back for the most part. And right now, you're not getting enough back in terms of what players are coming back.
But most teams aren't going to give up their best players if they're trying to trade for KD. They wouldn't do that. So that's
but I mean, if you're talking about an Anthony Simons type of guy, that's already better than McHale, in my opinion, for Brooklyn. And then if you throw on a Shaedon Sharpe into that, that's better than McHale.
Well, I mean,
Cam Johnson.
We don't know that yet, but
I mean, I would think that's better for Brooklyn because you got a guy with legitimate star potential, 2 guys with legitimate star potential, whereas McHale, I don't think will ever be that type of player, and Cam Johnson definitely won't.
I mean, they asked for Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns, and 6 first or something from Minnesota. Yeah. I don't think they're being realistic either.
I mean, but you should I think if they wait till next offseason, they will have a better player package on the table than Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson along with the picks, right? And there will be maybe a team or two out there that will have, a bunch of picks. Or it will be a team that's kind of injured and has a high draft pick like the Blazers were this past season. Like, that's the thing, is a lot of things can change between now and the future. Right now, if you take whatever Phoenix is offering you, you're selling for pennies on the dollar. There's no reason to not wait and try and get more and try and make noise for another year. Well, because, I mean, you're talking about getting to Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert has the same trade value as Kevin Durant.
But I'm not saying he has the same trade value. I'm saying there's like a limit to how much a team can offer because of the step-in rule. So, like, even if we all agree, KD is better than Rudy Gobert, it's not even close. I'm just saying it's hard to come up with an offer that's better than that from any team that realistically would want KD.
I mean, but you're talking about 29 other teams. And it just takes a team with an extra draft pick or a team with a better player than a Mikal Bridges and that sort of package out of 29 other teams. Mm-hmm. Right now, you only have one team that's realistically trying to get Kevin Durant from the sounds of it.
But KD is 34, and you're risking him. He's had injuries the last few years. You're risking, if he gets injured again, like completely tanking his trade value to where...
Yeah, I mean, any hypothetical could happen. Any wild hypothetical could happen, absolutely.
I'm just saying that's like... What I'm saying is the offers that'll come in the future might not be worth that risk. If I'm Brooklyn and he's going to like hold out or be a baby all year or whatever, I don't know.
I mean, Mikal Bridges, 2 picks that are likely in the late 20s, and then 2 future unprotected firsts, and then maybe a couple swaps, is not something where it's like, oh no, we might miss out on a little bit of that value. Mm-hmm. Like, that's not enough value where it's like, oh, we have to take that because we might get something a little bit worse after a year where maybe we make some noise and in a situation where we could very possibly get a better trade package. It just, that doesn't make sense to me.
I mean, I know a team like Portland would probably give up a ton to get Mikal Bridges, assuming it worked under the hard cap. So, like, you could, and Cam Johnson could probably get a pretty good trade package as well. So you could flip those guys for more picks, and then you could then flip, like, let's say we traded him Hart, Nas, and Winslow and first or something. Like, then you could flip some of those guys for more picks or whatever. Like, I don't know.
That package is probably still there next offseason.
Yeah.
And Phoenix could probably flip Mikal to Portland for more value because Portland would be able to give up more value. Mm-hmm. So that's why I just think that both those guys end up going back.
Yeah.
And right now Brooklyn is the betting favorite for KD's location next year, which I always say, never base anything off betting. That's just basically Vegas trying to split bets 50-50 for the most part. They're trying to make their money and minimize risk, so it's not just a predictive tool. But I've said that for a while. I think that's where they're going to be next year, and maybe KD tries to play hardball and sit out. But I saw somebody in chat earlier say too that there was a report that Kyrie and his agent expect Kyrie to be in Brooklyn next year. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, but that might be also just. They're trying to raise his trade value. It's like trying to say, oh, he's a good guy. He's willing to play out his contract or whatever, which he probably will. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, anything could be anything, mm-hmm. but that's, I don't know for sure because anything could happen and anything could be anything, but that's where I expect him to be.
And then just in case anyone does not know this that's watching right now, it is impossible for the Blazers to trade for Kevin Durant right now. So no, he is not in Portland because he is expected to be traded here. Is going to force his way here. Even if the Brooklyn Nets called us and said, you know what? I hate all 28 other teams. They're giving us crap offers for Kevin Durant. I want you guys to have him for whatever you want to give back to match contracts. And I just want to spite all these other 28 teams. You can have KD. Congratulations. Happy birthday, whatever. The Blazers would have to say, sorry, we're not able to do it because they can't. There is no scenario where they can match his salary and stay under the hard cap line. So this is the problem with being hard capped and all that stuff. So we have no shot at getting Kevin Durant right now.
Yeah, in eulogy, the Blazers can't trade Dame for 6 months. So nice try. That's part of why they can't trade for KD. Like, realistically, right? You can't trade Dame for him to match salary because Dame just signed an extension, okay? So Dame can't be traded for 6 months. So any Dame trades in here, I'm not responding to a single Dame trade except for this sentence for the next 6 months. Dame can't be traded for 6 months.
Yep.
Okay, I'll lower the time for 3 months, for 2 months, whatever. But people earlier were in here like saying like trade Dame for this, trade Dame, blah blah blah. Like Dame cannot be traded. Here's the thing: Portland to get KD has to trade out about $36 million of salary. Actually, no, they have to trade out about $40 million of salary because you got to avoid the hard cap.
I think it has to be more than that because then they have to sign players.
Well, yeah, that's like $4 million, and then like like you have to send out 40, 41, 42 million somewhere in there. How are you going to get to? Let's just say it's 40 million, which is probably a little bit more, but let's just say it's 40 million. How you get into that number? You can't trade Dame. Okay, the next highest paying salary is Anthony Simons. You can't trade him right now. You can't trade him until January 15th. Okay, the next highest paying salary is Jeremy Grant, 21 million. You can trade Jeremy Grant right now, but you can't add that $21 million to any other salary in order to match KD.
For 48 more days.
Yeah, so you can't trade Jeremy Grant plus Hart's plus whatever. Like you can't add Jeremy Grant's salary, so that doesn't work because that's not enough for KD on its own. The next highest paying salary is Nurkic, just signed, can't trade him. The next highest paying salary is Josh Hart, $13 million a year. The next after that is Shaden Sharp. Which you can't trade him right now, but that you can trade him.
You can trade him soon, but it's only $6 million. So,
yeah, but that's only $6 million. So that's what, $19 million. Nasir Little is what, $4 million. That's $23 million. Justice Winslow's what, $4 million. That's $27 million.
Yep.
You're still $13 million short of $40 million, and every player you add on top of that, you have to fill their roster spot, so you have to add salary. There's no way you're trading. There's no way you're matching salary, and if you like threw in every minimum player somehow, which I don't even think would get you there or is possible, but even if it did, you wouldn't be able to stay under the hard cap either. So it's literally impossible right now for Portland to get KD.
I tried saying that to someone on Twitter, and they were like, "No, I know it's unlikely or improbable." It's like, no, it's actually impossible.
They have a better chance of trading for Giannis. No, well, they can't trade for Giannis right now. I don't know where I was going with that, bro.
And you'd have a better over $30 million is pretty much out of the question right now.
You'd have a better chance of Brooklyn buying out KD and KD signing here on a minimum, because at least that would like through the book by the rule of the law would be possible, right? Obviously, that's not going to happen, but that's just to hammer home the point. It is literally impossible. KD ain't getting traded to Portland. The only way it would be doable in the offseason is like once Jeremy Grant's contract can be combined, you traded like Grant plus Hart plus Nas plus Winslow. That's what?
42 or something, 43.
Yeah. But I wouldn't count that. And
then they
like,
just have to sign
first.
2 minimums, yeah.
But that's not any better than like throw Sharp in there, and then throw in like 3 unprotected future firsts. But is that better than McHale and Cam Johnson and 4 unprotected future firsts? Probably not.
Same, yeah.
Yeah. So I would not. The KD dream is dead for now.
Yeah.
For now. But if they hang on to him and next year it's the situation again, Portland would actually be one of the teams to watch out for, depending on how this next season goes.
So for Cole and Gray Hughes and all those guys, that's literally our point, is that we're going to be talking about this roster. So like any big moves like that are most likely unrealistic the rest of the summer, short of someone making maybe less than $6 million who still fits into under the hard cap, but So that's a possibility just because we have that Rocco trade exception as long as they don't take us over that hard cap. I think we have like 5 or 6 million to play with there. But anyone making more than that's going to be really difficult. And I don't know if I want to give up Hart for most players in that range anyway. So,
yep. All right. What else do you want to touch upon?
In like a normal scenario, if we weren't hard capped, any trade for KD would open up possibilities that weren't there before. And I've mentioned this before, but Dame's number one outside of like an obvious star like KD or Anthony Davis or someone like that coming to Portland, the number one player Dame would want on this team is Mikal Bridges. And you saw him at Dame's birthday party on Friday night. He's in all the pictures right next to Dame. And like Dame, that guy's always with Ant and Nas and Dame, and they all get along well together, and they all have the same trainer and work out together and stuff in the off season. So they do. Dame would love Mikal Bridges. So if Mikal Bridges gets traded to Brooklyn or something, that opens a door slightly that has never been opened, because anytime we've called Phoenix, he's their draft pick. They traded for him on draft night. They've developed him. He's been a big part of their success. He's started every game, I think, since, maybe not started, but he's played in every game, hasn't missed a single one due to injury. So he's really dependable. So they've just said, like, no, there's nothing we want right now. And then there's guys like OG Anunoby who are close to that, not quite as high on Dame's list, but Dame would love to have an OG Anunoby too. But the asking price is just ridiculous from Toronto, so we don't have a shot at getting him realistically. However, that all changes if he goes to a new team, because that's not the team that drafted him. They don't have as much connections or ties to him. They might still ask for a lot for those players, but they're not going to be untouchable like they have been for us. So I would be looking more like that, but then with the hard cap, it still makes it difficult to trade like Hart and Nas and stuff for Mikal Bridges and still stay under the hard cap line. It's just wish we didn't have to worry about that kind of stuff.
Well, it's that plus we owe our first next year and it's lottery protected through like 2028. So honestly, it's better for Portland if KD stays in Brooklyn until next offseason. Even if it's a situation where next offseason he goes to the Suns, the Blazers would be in a better position to pounce on Mikal Bridges if he's included in that trade, because they would have control of all their future firsts, and a lot of guys that aren't tradable right now would be tradable then. You would have a lot more flexibility to try and add a guy or jump into that sort of trade. Plus, you would maybe be contenders yourselves in a Kevin Durant trade. So that's why I'm rooting for Kevin Durant to go back to Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm. And as good as Mikal Bridges is, if you do give up like Mikal and Sharp or Mikal and Nas and future first or something, is that necessarily? It's kind of going back to the whole Nurkic versus DeAndre Ayton thing, right? Is the upgrade, even though it's an upgrade, worth what you have to give up to have a minimal upgrade?
You said Mikal and Sharp for who?
If it's like Hart and Sharp, sorry, I think I said Hart and Sharp for Mikal or something.
Okay.
Let's just say that was the trade. Hart and Sharp for Mikal. Like the upside of Sharp is, and Hart being a competent player in a similar vein to Mikal Bridges, is that necessarily? I mean, I think they do it if you're Portland, but like...
Well, this season will be good because you'll be able to see how far away this type of team is when you actually have some like really good on-ball defenders that'll compete night in, night out.
Right.
And you can see how far away the Blazers are with a healthy Dame, with Ant Star next to him, and you can be in a position where it's like, you'll be able to know, if we trade for Mikal, will we get us to contention or not? Because if he gets you to the contention, then you probably do that move. If not, then you probably don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Harrison Barnes just isn't the best defender. He's kind of slow-footed, so I think that's why they're not really looking at him.
Harrison Barnes rhymes with end the stream. When we start talking about Harrison Barnes, it makes me want to end the stream. Shout out clearly about $5 dono says fully healthy and focused. Isn't KD, Kai, Ben, a crazy good lineup. Like, I'm stuck on thinking these guys are just trolling and creating drama in the media. Thank you, Clearly Bought, for a $5 dono. I don't think they're trolling at all, but I think that, if Ben Simmons finally decides to play and they added Royce O'Neal to kind of replace Bruce Brown, and they brought back Kessler Edwards, and who else did they? They got TJ Warren. Mm-hmm. If he's healthy, he could be a major piece. Joe Harris was injured last year. If he's healthy, I have a hard time seeing KD. If Kyrie's going back and, willing to play, I mean, he accepted his player option. I have a hard time seeing KD say no to Kyrie and saying no to $44 million if he can play with a lineup. That would be a really good team still. Mm-hmm. Especially if it's a situation where if maybe he could say, if I come back and play but then want out next offseason, you have to trade me, and Brooklyn is willing to abide by that, because in that situation, if you tell somebody that as an organization, you pretty much have to do it. So that's kind of, if I had to guess, that's kind of what I'd be expecting next year.
Mm. Well, to Clearly Bot's point, I mean, I think you're reading too much into it, because these guys aren't just trolls. They're proven instigators. They're proven malcontents. They're proven guys who have been on and burned bridges in several places they've gone to. So, I mean, Ben, I guess, has only been one other place, but Kyrie's been asked out of several situations. This is his third team, I think, that he's asked out of or left. KD, leaves OKC for a winning team and then leaves them, after it starts to turn, and now he wants out with another team. And it's I just think these guys they created a mess, and now it's a mess, and they're like, well, see ya. Sorry. And I have no respect for those type of players. And that's why I will 100,000,000% stand behind guys like Damian Lillard and support him as long as he wants to be a part of this team. I will never think twice about how his contract is a little too much money for a 35-year-old or any of that kind of stuff. I will never consider that a detriment, because of how good of a person he is and how he has stuck through things and been a man of his word, unlike all those bozos.
Yeah.
I mean, they literally fired their coach within the first year, Kenny Atkinson. They handpicked their new coach, and then they talk crap about him a week later, how they don't even need a coach and all this stuff. And they, quite frankly, the reason they haven't been good is because, of their own doing. It's Kyrie and Harden and KD's fault that team. I mean, KD's was mostly because of injuries, but the other two was mostly their fault for not being available to play, or not being in the best shape in the case of Harden, or Kyrie's not available to play at all. That kind of stuff, it's their fault. So they're trying to blame the organization for something that they had complete control of. They tried to set it up to where they were the main guys and could control everything, and went to a team where they could be the person who decides all these things, and it backfired, and they proved that they're not capable of being those type of players. And so I don't feel sorry for them at all. I think that's all their fault.
Yep. Anyway, is there anything else you wanted to touch on this stream before we sign off?
No, I appreciate everyone for watching tonight, and we'll catch you all on Thursday.
Yep, I'll have a video tomorrow recapping Summer League a little bit more, kind of quickly going into depth on a couple more things, and I don't know, I might try and record a few videos tomorrow. I have nothing to do out here quarantining because of COVID, but hopefully you guys have a good week ahead until we catch you on Thursday. Yeah, it's now the dog days of summer, man. We're going to have to find things to talk about on streams. I'll have to go back and look at what we did in late August of last year for stream ideas. But yeah, we're just waiting. I mean, you have about 3 months until the regular season kicks off, 2.5 months until preseason. So looking forward to getting closer to getting things underway. Anyway, Thank you to Clearly a Bot for donating tonight. Thank you to all of you for tuning in. And hit the like button. Helps us out. Subscribe. And we're out of here. Until next time, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.